A mage suddenly returned to the past while he was fighting a dragon with his friends. This mage was named Despise, and upon his return, he would take this opportunity to change history. The story started with the 6 remaining warriors who were still fighting in the Shadow World, and one of them was Despise. The Shadow World was the most serious disaster that humanity faced in history. Every place it engulfed was filled with dark fog, and it was impossible to know what was going on inside it. The only certain thing was that no one who had ever entered there had come back alive. And that time, they were facing the final boss of the Shadow World, or the Dragon of Destruction, the Bromir Napolitan. When the dragon attacked them, Despise quickly used his inverse spell. It tried to attack them, but he stopped it once again. Then it was the moment when Despise gave the signal to others to attack because he had already sealed the spells of the dragon. When the dragon used its tail, Raphael blocked it, so Donovan got the chance to attack the opponent. This was followed by Zod's attack, causing Azes to completely knock it down. Because of their efforts, the dark fog surrounding the area had also disappeared. But time had passed and they still had not been returned to their world of origin, so they were wondering why. They thought that it might take some time before they could be returned. For them not to get bored, they talked about how they defeated the dragon. They praised Despise because he contributed the most, that's why they defeated the dragon. Even Zod was amazed at what Despise had shown in the fight. Then they discussed what they would do next if they were to return to their world. The others shared what they were planning to do until Raphael asked Azes about her plans. But Azes did not answer him, so he just asked Despise if he would return to Hebrian Academy. From this question, Despise remembered his friend who died, so he said that he would think about it first. Suddenly, the dragon woke up and they felt a strong magical power coming from it. Zod remembered what he had read about the dragon's heart, which not only pumps blood but also stores a lot of mana. With the death of the dragon, its heart would stop pumping blood, and the mana that had nowhere to go was sure to explode. Zod did not think about it right away because it was the first time that the people defeated the dragon. They created a barrier to contain the impending explosion, but Zod knew it was not enough either. Despise tried to use his inverse spell on it, but it did not work. When it exploded, Despise thought of his friends again, and when he woke up, he was in another place. He wondered how he got there, and after a while, he heard the sound of applause. So he went to where the applause was coming from, then he saw Professor Bridget speaking on the stage. He was at Hebrian Academy, and there were other students who wanted to enroll there. Professor Bridget informed them that they would have to do a test first before they could enroll in the academy. They needed to clear the Shadow World, but it was just an artificial Shadow World created for the test. There were some seniors who were assigned to guide them during the test. After Despise heard the current year from Professor Bridget, he realized that he was in the past. He was suddenly discouraged and very sad because he felt like their fight was pointless. A few hours later, and while he was observing the school, a girl named Ladoria, a second-year student who would become his mentor, approached him. He also remembered the information he knew about her. When Ladoria found out that he was just a commoner, she was worried because even if he passed, he would definitely end up in the beta class. He was not surprised by this anymore because he knew that only nobles could go to the alpha class even if a commoner had potential. When they entered the building where the test was to be held, Ladoria was wondering that Despise was not even surprised. Despise made an excuse that he might have seen something similar to this. While they were on their way to the test room, another second-year student who was a water magic user, named Elhim, called Ladoria. Despise remembered that he was what Ladoria hated. When Elhim found out that Despise was just a commoner, he laughed and pissed off Ladoria even more. Before he left, he advised Despise not to continue with the test because he would still be in beta class even if he passed. Ladoria was so annoyed at Elhim that he obliged Despise to pass the test. When Despise entered the test room, he immediately looked around, hoping that he would see his friend again. Suddenly, someone called him, and when he turned around, it was the woman named Romantica who he was looking for. She noticed him that he was looking for something or someone around the room. Although he still did not know why he was experiencing what was happening in his life, he would definitely do everything to change what happened, so as not to repeat the tragedies they went through. Romantica was even surprised that he knew her name. So he just made an excuse that he saw her name on the screen because they were in the same testing group. A few minutes later, Ladoria talked to Despise again to inform him of the test that they were going to do. She was thinking that he was worried about the shadow world, so she made it clear to him that it was safe there, and that Hebrean Academy only created it for the tests. Elheim approached them again, and this time with his mentee, named Azest, who was a magic knight. Desser was happy to see Azest again, who was one of those he could count on in battle. But Ladoria was even more worried for Desser, so Elheim laughed at her. Soon their group was called for their test. After they entered the shadow world, it was explained to them what they would do. They just needed to get to the finish line, and only 3 of them could pass this test. Before it started, Desser was thinking that Azest might have just returned in that time like him. She noticed that he was looking at her, and from the words she said, he confirmed that she was not from the future. When they started, Azest immediately managed to get ahead of them. Desser and Romantica ran at the same time, but when Desser noticed that someone was about to attack them, he quickly pushed Romantica away. When that participant attacked them again, Romantica hit him with her wind strike. Then she immediately followed it with another wind strike, causing the other participant to be injured and removed from the test. Meanwhile, the other professors of Hebrean Academy were currently watching them. When they noticed that there was a commoner in Group D, they laughed because he managed to be included in a group with a magic knight. Romantica showed her skill, and used the arrow sweep to attack those who were ahead of them. With its great strength, one student was immediately blown away, and the other was surprised that Azest could easily overcome the strong wind with her sword. Soon a tree was uprooted by the force of the wind, and it hit the student who was following Azest. Because of this, there were only 3 of them left, but Romantica also planned to remove Desser from the test. She suggested for Desser to surrender before she started the attack on him, but Desser simply refused to do it. In her annoyance, she used many wind strikes on him. She thought that she had defeated Desser, but was surprised to hear his voice. She decided to use the wind venom, but she still could not hit him. It was here that she realized that Desser was using an inverse spell. She could not believe it because she knew that a person had to be in the higher circle to be able to use an inverse spell, and it was impossible for Desser because he was only in the lower circle. When she attacked, he stopped it once again. Although Desser admitted that Romantica was one of the strongest students of that year, he knew that her strength was not enough, and that what happened would surely repeat itself. So he had to win against her to show to Romantica that she was still weak, and to give her the motivation to get stronger. After he stopped Romantica from attacking, he used Grease and Fireball to leave her there and face Azest. When Azest noticed that Desser was behind her, she stopped to attack him with her magic arrows of prey. Desser quickly used an inverse spell, so Azest immediately attacked. When she saw that Desser had just dodged this attack, she attacked again, but Desser just controlled it. Once again, Desser used Grease and Fireball, so that he could pass Azest and cross the finish line. Because of this, he got the first place in their group, and this was one of the ways he could think of to force Azest to get stronger too. When the test was done, Professor Bridget tried to recommend Desser to the Alpha class. But when the results came out, Desser was still in Beta class. On the other hand, Romantica was surprised after seeing the result. She did not expect that she would only be included in the Beta class, and that Desser would be sitting next to her. She was also wondering why Desser was not included in the Alpha class even though he defeated a magic knight. Desser remembered the conversation between him and Professor Bridget when he visited her. He was informed that she recommended him to the Alpha class, but it was only opposed by the professors who were also nobles. Desser knew that there were many strong students in the Beta class, and he would do everything to awaken their hidden strengths. By noon, Romantica was approached by a student from the Alpha class, named Donetta. He knew that Romantica was a noble who also had potential, and he wanted to invite her to become a member of the Blue Moon Party. This was the strongest party of the academy that had the top students as members. But in exchange, Romantica had to go on a date with him. After hearing this, Romantica could not make a decision right away, and said that she would think about his offer first. Donetta understood her, so he gave her a chemiovan as proof of his love for her. When he left, Desser suddenly appeared, and Romantica was surprised by his presence. Desser also wanted to invite Romantica in the party that he was going to organize. But Romantica immediately rejected his invitation because she had an offer from the best party. Because of this, Desser was forced to use his last method. He gave Romantica a paper and advised her to immediately throw the paper away after reading it for her own sake. When Romantica read it, she could not believe that Desser knew her secret. Desser went to the training center to watch Pram's practice. He was one of the fastest swordsmen he had ever met in the shadow world. Romantica approached to ask him, but Desser just silenced her because Pram's duel was about to start. When Romantica saw Pram, she was fascinated by his cuteness. Pram chose the great sword, so Desser was surprised because it was not Pram's style. His opponent in the duel was a noble from the Alpha class, named Percival. When they started, Pram repeatedly attacked and Percival was shocked by this. But due to the weight of Pram's sword, he could not use it properly, so Percival saw an opportunity to counter his attacks. Although Percival had won, he was annoyed by what Pram did, so he gave him a punch. Desser quickly approached Pram to help him. He knew that Percival was just annoyed because he realized that Pram was stronger than him. In Percival's anger, he attacked Desser, but Desser just blocked it. Percival could do nothing but leave there. They immediately headed to Professor Bridget's office to treat his injuries. They also introduced themselves to each other, and before they went separate ways, Pram promised that he would never forget the good deed done by Desser. After leaving, Desser and Romantica went to the back of the school to discuss what was written on the paper. It was stated in the letter that Romantica's family was also a commoner before they bought the surname Eru from a poor noble. This is probably the reason why she was still included in the beta class, because the professors might know that she was just a commoner before. So she could not accept the offer at the Blue Moon party because it was only for the nobles. Romantica thought that Donetta would protect her, but Desser reminded her again what Donetta think of the commoners. When Desser mentioned that he would also propose this party to Pram, Romantica was forced to join Desser's party. But she also warned Desser that she would find out about his secret. One night, Pram once again dreamed of the day when his mother showed him his father's gift. But when he touched it, it gradually disappeared, causing him to wake up from his sleep. The next day, they went to Professor Bridget to inform her of Desser's plan to form a party. When Professor Bridget asked him why he wanted to form a party, he said that he planned to be promoted to Alpha class through the ranking tournament. Since others had no idea about the ranking tournament, Professor Bridget explained how it was conducted. It would also be held in the artificial shadow world, and the top 9 students would be awarded the title of single ranker. And as a single ranker, those from the beta class could move to the alpha class. That's why it was also called a promotional tournament, but it never happened before. Even though Desser knew how impossible it was, he was still sure to aim for this. He wanted to show the other professors that they were mistaken in their belief that all those in the beta class were weak and untalented. Professor Bridget supported Desser's plan because she also wanted to change the current system of the academy. After Professor Bridget approved their application, they headed to the room that the professor had given to them as their office and training room. But when they saw it, they still had a lot to fix in there, so they helped each other to clean the room. With everything was in order, they started their training. Desser first trained Romantica, so that she could better control her unleashed attacks. As for Pram, Desser just told him that he had nothing more to teach him. He knew that Pram was capable enough to win in the ranking tournament. But he asked Pram why he used a great sword on the duel instead of a lighter sword like a rapier. In order for Pram to properly answer the question, he took Desser to his room. When they went to his room, he talked about his parents. His mother was a commoner and his father was a noble, but he had never seen his father before. When Desser saw the rapier, he was sure that this was Pram's weapon. Pram said that after he found out that his father was bequeathing him this rapier, he trained himself with it, so that when the day came when he and his father would meet, he would be proud of him too. But his mother told him not to look for his father because his life was different from theirs. Although he was told to accept their situation, Pram still wanted to meet his father. So he enrolled in Hebrian Academy to try to find his father. He also tried to show in the town the value of the rapier, hoping that he could find a clue to his father's whereabouts. But he was just told that his rapier was worthless, and this made him so angry that he would never use it again. 3 days later, while they were practicing, Desser remembered something in the chemevan that Donetta gave to Romantica. He immediately asked Pram if he could see the rapier again. But he found out that Pram had already sold it to the town. Since he wanted to see it again, they went to the store where Pram sold it. When they got there, Desser immediately noticed how strict the guard was. The shop owner introduced himself as Wujukian. Desser told him that he wanted to buy the rapier that was sold to them. According to Wujukian, although he said that it was worthless, he noticed that it was a chemevan that Desser also suspected. For this reason, Wujukian wanted to sell it for 40 silver even though he only bought it from Pram for 3 silver. Desser did not think twice about paying for it, so that they could get the rapier again. He looked inside the sword, and saw that something was engraved on it. Then he gave it to Pram and told him how to open it. When Pram followed his instruction, they were surprised that it was made of blancium. It was a type of metal that was stronger than steel, but lighter than feathers. When they were about to leave, Wujukian wanted them to return the rapier because of what he learned. The guard suddenly attacked, but Desser was able to fend it off easily. When the guard was about to attack again, Pram moved to face him. The two of them fought until Desser noticed the aura surrounding Pram and the rapier. When the enemy attacked, Pram was able to injure him. This time, it was Pram who rushed in. With his great speed, the enemy could do nothing but block the attacks. When Pram was about to aim at its vital point, the enemy countered him. But he did not give up immediately, and their fight continued until he was able to cut the enemy's weapon. Then he had the opportunity to put the enemy to sleep. Wujukian thought that they could not get out of there because only his guard could open the door, but Pram easily cut it with his rapier. After Romantica finished her training, she decided to meet with Donetta. He took her to the cafeteria, so they could talk about what she wanted to say. Donetta thought that she would accept his offer, but he was surprised when she returned the chemuvan. Then she said that she used to be a commoner, and this was the reason for the displeased reaction on Donetta's face. Before she left, she also told him about their party's plan to be promoted to Alpha class. In Donetta's anger, he once again remembered the day when the commoners attacked their family. The day of the ranking tournament qualifying round had arrived. They easily defeated their opponents even if they were in the Alpha class. Because of this, they gradually rose until they were included in the top 30. Professor Fergman was very angry after seeing the article about Desser's group, and it stated the possibility that they might be the first students from the beta class to become a single ranker. He asked Azest if she could defeat Desser. When Azest confirmed that she could do it, Professor Fergman made her the leader of the group. After their meeting, Donetta and Percival spoke to Azest. They just informed her that they want to fight Romantica and Pram. Azest had no problem with what they wanted as long as she was the one who would deal with Desser. A few days before the final round, Desser brought Romantica and Pram to the library because he wanted them to study something. It was the structure of previous clock tower that was related to the final round. A few minutes later, Azest approached them. Desser praised her for joining the strongest party. But Azest was not sure that it was the strongest party because he was there. Before Azest told him about her intention, Desser already knew about it. So Azest threatened him that she would never lose to him again. Desser was just happy because everything was going toward his plans to make Azest even stronger. A few days later, the final round of the ranking tournament had arrived. In order for them to clear the Shadow World, they needed to solve an incident there. And whoever could solve it would be awarded big points. To be among the 9 single rankers, they had 2 choices. First, they had cleared the Shadow World, and second, they had to defeat the other participants. After explaining to them the rules and what they should do, they were admitted one by one into the artificial Shadow World. When Desser entered, he was separated from Romantica and Pram. Someone suddenly attacked him, and it was done by a member of the Blue Moon Party. When she attacked again with an ice blast, Desser retaliated with a fire road. She attacked again with Aqua Wave, and she had something else planned to do. Desser was amazed at what she was showing, but he just used an inverse spell on her. That was the moment when he attacked her, and his opponent could do nothing when she was covered in ice. Meanwhile, Romantica targeted a contestant who was relaxing in a distance. Pram was with her, who was worried because they had not seen Desser yet. So Romantica used her detection magic to track his presence in the surroundings. She saw 2 participants in the distance, and 1 participant on the other side. When she attacked the participant who was alone, the attack she made suddenly disappeared. Then they were approached by the 2 participants whom she felt earlier. Pram tried to attack, but the man only blocked it, so he retreated. After that, they rushed at each other, and the woman also joined the fight, so Pram used his speed. When they were surrounded by dust, Romantica took advantage of this opportunity to attack the woman. Then they cooperated to attack the man, causing him to lose immediately. After the fight, Romantica shouted at Desser because he had been observing them for a while. She knew that Desser was the one she attacked earlier, so she kept wondering if she got stronger because her spell was easily inverted. As time went by, the participants' number was gradually decreasing. Desser knew that if they focus on clearing the shadow world, they would definitely be ambushed by the alpha class. Suddenly, a heavy rain poured down, so they quickly took shelter under the trees. After a while, they heard the sound of the bell from the previous clock tower. It only meant that the survival quest would begin. The clock tower would release monsters, and in order for them to pass the quest, they had to defeat them. The monster immediately attacked a participant, and left only 17 in total. At that moment, the monster appeared to Desser's group, and it turned out to be a Kildra mouse. Desser knew that it had other companions, so he immediately told Romantica and Pram to run. Romantica tried to attack them, but it did not work. Desser told them how to defeat the monster, and they just needed to kill the leader. He used his blood to summon the leader of the rats. Then he asked Romantica to attack it, but the monster was not affected by this attack. When they were about to run again, Desser was surprised when Pram suddenly rushed towards the enemies. He was immediately swarmed by the rats, so Desser quickly took action to save him. After a while, Pram suddenly came out, and he managed to kill the Kildra mouse. Because of this, they successfully completed the survival quest. But Pram lost a lot of strength, so he fell asleep after that. Desser felt annoyed at himself because he almost endangered Pram's life. He knew to himself that he could easily defeat the Kildra mouse, but he prioritized the improvement of Pram and Romantica. When Pram woke up, Desser decided that they should go to the previous clock tower. The other group had also managed to complete the survival quest. So they decided to go to the previous clock tower too. When Azest's group came, Romantica attacked them, causing 2 of her members to fall. Although they could not see where the attacks came from, Azest already knew that it was the work of Desser's group. As they approached the clock tower, Romantica continued to attack them. When another group arrived, Romantica immediately attacked its members. After a few moments, Desser began to analyze the entire previous clock tower. When Azest's group entered the tower, they were surprised that the other party was also there. They thought that it was Azest's group who attacked them earlier. It was here that Azest realized what Desser was planning. She told Donetta and Percival not to interfere because she would deal with the other groups by herself. She locked them one by one in her ice wall, and even though the other groups were working together against her, they still could not stop her. Meanwhile, Desser's group was just listening to the battle going on downstairs. When the battle was over, Desser said that his plan did not work. He informed the 2 that there was no announcement that a participant had been eliminated. It was only a few moments when the group of Azest arrived at their location. Azest took Desser upstairs so she could fight him alone, while Romantica and Pram were left behind to face Donetta and Percival. Before Azest could get close to Desser, he used the stone break to attack her. Pram showed his speed to Percival, that's why his opponent was surprised because Pram was different compared to their previous fight. Percival was thinking of asking Donetta for help, but Donetta was already focused in fighting Romantica. Due to the fact that Romantica lost a lot of mana earlier, she was having difficulty in fighting Donetta. When Desser broke Azest's ice wall, Donetta lost sight of Romantica. That was the moment when Romantica took the opportunity to attack her opponent. Because of this, Donetta was forced to use the artifact to remove the smoke around them. Then he quickly attacked Romantica repeatedly, but luckily, Romantica was able to avoid them all. Donetta once again attacked with a blast, and Romantica was unable to dodge it. Pram quickly approached Romantica, and Donetta told Percival not to interfere because he would be the one to end the commoners. He locked Pram first to attack Romantica, but Pram was able to get out of it. Romantica thought that she would only slow Pram down, so she planned to have a one-on-one fight with Donetta because it was her whom he wanted to fight. But Pram knew what she was thinking, which was why he refused what she wanted to do. On the other hand, Azest continued to attack her opponent, but Desser just used his inverse spell. After Azest used her winter crash, Desser also attacked her. But Azest just used a barrier to block it. When Azest charged towards him, Desser braced himself and used his dagger to block her sword. Azest was annoyed because even though she knew that she was stronger than Desser, she still could not defeat him. In this situation, she decided to use the Frozen Throne. Desser was amazed that Azest was able to do this technique, which was her trump card. But no matter how many attacks Azest launched against him, he was still able to stop them. Azest suddenly removed the Frozen Throne, and Desser was surprised by what he saw on her sword. Meanwhile, the fight between Pram and Donetta continued until Pram hit his opponent with his kick. Because of this, Donetta decided to let Percival join the battle. When Percival attacked, Pram blocked it, but Donetta was already behind them. When they got close to them, Romantica made Pram bend down and she hit their opponents with her attack. As Azest attacked Desser, she managed to break Desser's dagger. She thought that she was the winner, but it turned out that Desser completed his inverse spell on the clock tower, causing it to stop, and that was the moment when the final round of the ranking tournament ended. While Professor Bridget was very happy with what Desser's group had done, Professor Fergman was seething with anger. After some time, the headmaster called the professors in a meeting together. Professor Fergman accused Professor Bridget of revealing some secrets to Desser about the exam. But others did not believe him because he had no proof. The headmaster's assistants calmed him down and showed them the list of single rankers which the headmaster had chosen. When Desser and Azest talked again, Desser told everything about their plan. Since their first plan did not work after Azest stopped it, they went straight to their second plan, and this was to clear the shadow world. But when he tried to analyze the previous clock tower, he realized that the time was not enough. Fortunately, Azest was the only one who fought against him, so he still had time to finish the analysis. It was here that Azest realized that Desser was not only focused on her, but on the whole situation. After hearing all of this, she accepted her defeat to Desser. Romantica and Pram suddenly came there to join Desser. Azest decided to leave them, but she asked Desser for a favor if she could join them whenever they train. Romantica did not want to agree to this, but Desser allowed her to join them. Then they went to Professor Bridget's office to find out the result of the test. Before Professor Bridget revealed the result, she brought out a special cake from Biswald Bakery. Then they were told that they were now single rankers and would be included in the Alpha class. So they celebrated it with a special cake. As Professor Bridget watched Desser, he remembered the day when she taught him magic. These were the times when she always went to the orphanage where Desser came from. When the first day as students of the Alpha class came, Romantica and Pram went to check their room where the class would be held. Desser also came there after a few moments and picked them up for their morning training. Just like what they agreed, Azest would always join them every time they had their training. Because of this, Azest also learned a lot not only from Desser, but also from Romantica and Pram. When the class started, Professor Prelude noticed that Romantica was sleeping, so she called her to answer her question. And since Romantica could not answer, Desser whispered the correct answer to her. When their class was over, they approached Professor Prelude because they wanted to ask her a favor. They were brought to her office to discuss the favor they wanted to ask. Desser gave a request form to the protection detail for the Magical Tower's Hureli branch. Desser begged her that if possible, their party would be assigned to this request. Professor Prelude did not agree to this because she was thinking that Desser had no reason to do it. But when Desser mentioned that he knew that the magical stone called the Tear of Re-Journal was placed in the Hureli branch, Professor Prelude was surprised by this. Desser also said that 10 hours from that moment, someone would try to steal it, and it was the group called Outers. Professor Prelude asked him how he knew this, but Desser did not answer because he did not have much time to explain further. Desser managed to get Professor Prelude's approval, so 10 hours later, he pretended to be an ordinary resident and purposely bumped into the leader of the Outers, named Kryken, who was on his way to the Hureli branch. He helped Desser to stand up, but it turned out that he was annoyed by what happened, causing him to drop the breads that Desser was carrying. While Desser was pretending to feel sad about the breads, Kryken continued towards the Hureli branch. When he arrived at the Hureli branch, he put on a mask and began the attack with his disciples. A guard of the Magical Tower headquarters immediately informed Master Zod that someone was attacking the Hureli branch. Because this was exactly what Desser had said, Zod asked himself who Desser really was. Meanwhile, it had not been easy for the opponents to enter the Hureli branch because it had a barrier. But Kryken knew that this barrier could not be branched by two types of attack, so while some were using magical attacks, it was also accompanied by physical attacks. Soon they successfully broke the barrier. When they entered, the guards of the Magical Tower were waiting to face them. While Kryken's disciples were fighting them, Kryken noticed that the guards were wearing armor. But he did not mind it anymore, and they continued to enter the Magical Tower. He used invisibility so that they could enter easily, and the guards inside would not bother them anymore. Because of this, they had no difficulty entering the very room where the Tear of Re journal was placed. Kriken's disciples immediately broke the barrier surrounding it. Then Kriken used Earth Rage to destroy the container itself. But when he was about to take the Tear of Re journal, Pram came there. Kriken made sure to get the Tear of Re journal first, and then he ordered his disciples to eliminate Pram. Pram fought them off, but when he knocked one down, Kriken started to move and attack him. Pram tried to avoid the next attack until he was cornered. The disciples of Kriken attacked again, but they had no idea that Romantica was also there to block those attacks. Since she was hidden, she quickly took down the two disciples of the enemy. Although Romantica's attacks were not that strong, Kriken noticed its accuracy. He thought that as if their opponent had prepared for their attack that night. When the wall surrounding Pram was removed, he eliminated Kriken's two disciples who were both mages. While he fought against the remaining disciples, Kriken also helped to attack Pram. Until Kriken decided to sacrifice his remaining disciple, but he still had not caught Pram. He created a shield, so no matter how Pram attacked, it would not went through to him. When Romantica tried to attack, it was here that Kriken tracked her exact location. Kriken asked them who sent them there because they seemed to know that he was coming to get the Tear of Re journal. But Romantica did not answer, so Kriken attacked her. Fortunately, Pram acted quickly to destroy the rocks. Romantica tried to exchange attacks, and then Pram followed it up with another attack, but Kriken just grabbed his rapier. Kriken used Earth Rage to blow up the room. Because of this, he was able to get out of there, and fortunately, Pram and Romantica were not hurt by the explosion. While Kriken was in the underground tunnel, he was met by Despise. He was surprised because this man was the one that bumped into him earlier. Because Kriken was also wondering how he knew his exact location, Despise showed the mana he had placed on Kriken when he helped him earlier. It was here that Kriken realized that Despise was the mastermind why the guards had prepared for their arrival. So he used the Doom Fist to attack Despise, but Despise just used an inverse spell on it. The enemy tried to attack again, but Despise quickly stopped it. Because of this, he threatened to destroy the Tear of Re journal, but Despise did not mind it. When he was about to try to counter Despise, he did not expect that Despise would use gravity control. It was here that Despise had a chance to recover the Tear of Re journal. But after a while, Kriken decided to release his true power. His entire form changed and became a magical beast. He attacked Despise, which Despise was not able to escape because of its much speed. Every attack he made was not only fast, but also powerful. Despise tried to counter, but he was hit by a Doom Fist. They continued to exchange their attacks until Kriken decided to finish off Despise. Despise created many shields, but they were all destroyed by the enemy. Kriken thought he had defeated Despise, but was surprised that his weapon was also destroyed. It turned out that Despise used an inverse spell on it, and even the spell that Kriken used on his body was also included. Kriken tried to attack again, so Despise used the Tear of Re journal to make his fireball stronger. It was the moment that Despise finally defeated Kriken, then Pram and Romantica also arrived at his location shortly after. A few days later, he was given a reward for what he did in protecting the Tear of Re journal. He chose to be able to play chess with the master of the magical tower, named Zod, so Professor Prelude brought him to its office. Zod was the strongest mage he knew, and also considered his close friend. When they were about to start playing, he asked him for the herbal method. Zod was surprised because only a few people knew how to play with these rules. It turned out that Zod was the one who also taught him how to play it. A few minutes later, Zod could see that he would win in the game. Suddenly, Despise suggested that they put a bet on it. The loser of them must fulfill the wish of the winner. Zod said that Despise could not fulfill what he wanted to ask. So Despise borrowed the magical stone that was on Zod's desk that had not been processed yet. He did something to it that surprised Zod, so he asked how Despise did it. Because of this, Despise took advantage of this opportunity to make his answer to Zod's question as his bet. And as for Despise's request, he would say it only if he win in the game. One night, Azest was invited along with the other members of Blue Moon to Professor Fergman's mansion. Professor Fergman talked to her about the news of their defeat in the ranking tournament. She told him that she did not care about it because it was true that they had lost, and there was no point in hiding it. In Professor Fergman's anger, he told her to get out of there and leave the Blue Moon party. Azest thought about Despise's party, so she did not think twice about leaving as a member of the Blue Moon party. One day, Pram asked Desser why he wanted to make them stronger. It was here that Desser said that after 13 days, a shadow world would appear and they would be sent there to clear it. But this time, there was a high possibility that they would die, and he would not let it happen. Since they already knew Desser, Romantica believed in what he was saying. But she asked him about his real identity. Desser was about to answer this, but Romantica suddenly stopped him. This was because she promised before that she would do everything to find out his secret. While they wait for that day that was said by Desser, they continued to practice. Meanwhile, Pram had undergone training with better swordsmen so that he could strengthen himself even more. Desser also continued to train Azest so that she could control her power even more. 13 days later, what Desser had said to them had happened when the shadow world suddenly appeared to them. Because of this, the students were immediately asked to prepare and be sent to the shadow world. This is the end of the last episode of Returner's Magic Should Be Special Season 1. I hope you like it and give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel so you won't miss new uploaded videos. Thank you for watching.